Although Solon, circa 630 to circa 560 BC, lived a luxurious life, we read in this verse that he considered himself to be one of the poor. This consciousness of misery gave the philosopher king of Athens the courage to discharge, as he liked to put it, all debts. Most people seek authority in a higher source, which is one reason we cite this shadow from the past. This cancellation of debts created the conditions that led to the prosperity of 5th century Greece. We argue that the great works of this golden age would not have been realized if Solon had not effected this radical but favorable measure. That's from the Neo-Catiline Conspiracy for the Universal Cancellation of Debt, from The Arch-Conspirator by Len Bracken, Adventures Unlimited Press. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. It's time for another diatribe against the healthcare overhaul that is going on in Washington, D.C. No matter your position on what should or should not be done with the healthcare issue, it is paramount that you work to make sure that anything that is brought forward by the House or the Senate conforms to what you have as an idea for reform. The 1900-page monstrosity that has come out of the House is filled with a bunch of egregious fucking nonsense that I hate. So I contacted my representative in the House to tell him not to vote for that bill, and to tell him that I'm not going to be supporting any candidate that does not support the views that I think are important when it comes to healthcare reform. Real reform is something totally foreign to anything that Washington bureaucrats are about achieving. So, if we cannot have what we want, then I go back to what I've told you before, and that is to create fucking gridlock. Tell your representative, no matter what your position is, tell them to throw this piece of crap out. I can think of a lot of things that are wrong with this. First off is mandating coverage for everybody. I do not think necessarily that this is something the federal government can do. One may make an argument based on the Constitution, but whether or not that is valid is another matter. The government would be mandating that you buy a service from someone else. I do not know whether that is a constitutional provision of the federal government or not. I'm sure they'll make a case for it. Be that as it may, there are other provisions within this bill that I do not like. The so-called public option, the Congressional Budget Office says, may turn out to be more expensive than any private insurance policies. Now, how can a public option serve in any way to be competitive with private insurance if it costs fucking more than the monopoly fucking plan that already is in your fucking city? And chances are there is a monopoly plan in your city. If you did nothing about healthcare reform except for breaking up these huge fucking monopolies that corner the market all over this country, that would be a step in the right direction. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I'm voting for gridlock on this issue so that nothing gets passed. Because there are insufficient safeguards for people who are already covered, there is the mandating of coverage, and there is a copious amount of fines and fees. If I had a fucking week, perhaps I'd read the 1990 pages of this fucking bill. But from the synopsises that I have seen, I do not like it, so let's move to fucking gridlock. Healthcare reform that is real fucking reform, or do nothing at all. Because we're not going to settle for fucking half measures and bullshit anymore. Period. Thank you. Good night.